So, wow. What a last few days it has been. And there's no coincidences, right? Like everything in my life over the last several months. I mean, it's funny because I think everything in my life, my whole entire life has been lining up to this moment. But everything in my life the last several months for sure has been like coming to this moment. So look at my hair even, like, I just look like so wild. I literally like rolled out of bed, was like, oh, I need to get some sun, went out, was downloading more stuff. And then I was like, I gotta do this thing. And literally I've been getting so many messages from so many people. And then I'm trying to respond to everyone. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got to just go into the group and talk about it here, because then I can kind of direct everyone to come here, listen, and then I can, message them individually. So one thing that's been really wild is my right eye for the last 5 days has been spasming. And typically that right eye twitch is like, oh yeah, money coming, money coming, or downloads coming in. This has been something unreal though, this twitch that's happening, because it's not like, typically it's a shake. Like I get this little shake in my eye. This isn't a shake. This is like a full, my eye is moving like this. And every time I start talking about this or I'm working on it, my eye is like going crazy. I don't know. It's like, it's shaking my whole. Did you see it? Could you guys see it right now? I'm going to see if it will do it again. It's so wild. It's not going to do it now, of course, but it just did it right then. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. Anyway, it's been happening since this stuff started dropping in. And I'm like, so essentially, oh, I just did it again. Hold on, let's see if it does it. The body is such an interesting thing, right? So I have just been like, yeah, it does start when I talk about it. It's so wild. So I have been like in this place where, I've shared all of this with you guys. Like I went through this phase of like total boredom in my business. I've been back like so excited about my business for the last few months, but it's like, there's been this like looming, like there was something, I didn't know what it was. And it was like, I'm like launching, it's like the certainty factor thing had dropped in and I'm like, oh, this is so important. And it literally, you guys, every single thing has led up to this. And just bear with me because I don't know how clearly I'm going to be able to communicate this to you. It's doing it again. I want you guys to see it. It's so wild. So all these pieces, like the certainty factor, which for those of you, we moved the certainty factor to next weekend because I need to, there it's doing it again. You'll just keep watching and you'll see it. It's like moving my whole, like it's the eyelid moving, but it moves my whole eye. It's so wild. Anyway, so the certainty factor is going to move to next weekend. But the certainty factor dropped in to enable me to, it's just been this whole series of events. I don't even know where to begin to tell you guys other than, so I have, I guess, just to say like my human design experiment, I have been living now, I think 8 years. How old's Jack? Maybe 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. Cause I think Jack was just under 1 when I started, studying human design and living my human design experiment. And that has been revolutionary in my life. And, you know, I think like that's a big part of my money story also, because it is when I finally started to have like what I would call real self-assuredness. Like when I started to have real realization of like who I was in a really deep, meaningful way, if that makes sense. And about that time is actually also when I met Dane Thomas, and when I went through the spiral for the first time, and then when I became a spiral practitioner, and all of these things were like so influential in where I'm at today. But I've always really been interested in astrology since I was a little girl. So the things that I'm the type of person, I'm a 5'1" in human design. I'm the type of person that gets really like, I obsess over things. Like I become obsessed with things that I'm interested in. So a component of this that I think is really important is that around 12 years old, I became obsessed with ancient Egypt and alchemy. Like, but I didn't know it was alchemy at the time. But I became really obsessed with like the burial rites and the resurrection component. And and that sort of like continued on my whole life. I mean, to the point that in college, I took hieroglyphs classes, like so random, right? So ancient Egypt has always just been this thing. And, you know, as I went through life, just always had that affinity for it. You know, ended up becoming a Sakium attuned practitioner. And those of you that have signed up for the Lionsgate portal, you're going to get to experience a Sakium energy transmission, which I've never actually done publicly. I received the attunement and became a level 1 practitioner just for myself, for the purpose of like being able to heal myself and use the energy for myself. And those of you that are not aware of what Sakium is like the feminine version of Reiki. It comes from Aset or Isis, and it's super powerful and incredible, beautiful energy. And so I'm actually going to be bringing through some of those energy transmissions on the Lionsgate activation, which is happening on the 8th and the 9th, 8th for the regular and 9th for the VIP activation. So, you know, Sakium attuned, and then really like, yeah, just diving deeply into like all things pertaining to alchemy. And then when I started my spiritual reawakening, like lots and lots of study of like the emerald tablets and resurrection and just all of that, lots of like waking state visions of being actually a person who helped prepare bodies, also helped people cross to the underworld. And so I've had lots and lots of like stuff around that's come up for me over the years. It's so distracting and so crazy, but it's like the weirdest thing. Now I'm like, now that I know what it is, I'm like, okay, because it was like super stressing me out for a few days. So there was that. And so the ancient Egypt thing, and then astrology. So astrology has always been a big part of my life. The I Ching has always been a big part of my life. So my mother was like so into I Ching, and she was always throwing the I Ching. And so it's so weird, like the hexagrams have been a part of my life, you know, since I was a little girl, because my mom was always throwing the I Ching. And I got interested in it at one point, and then, but it never like really stuck, but I always just was super fascinated by it. I also, you know, became really fascinated with Japanese culture. I lived in Japan for a while. I studied in Japan, really researching a lot about Asian culture in that way, and like some of the mysticism, like Japanese mysticism, essentially. Always just been really intrigued with mysticism, different cultures, but the hexagrams have played a big part in my life. And so when I found human design and then astrology my whole life, and really into feng shui also growing up, Chinese astrology. And so these are all just things that I've like studied in my free time. And it's never anything that I've brought like into my coaching, or that I've like, really passed on to my clients. I mean, my high level clients get some of that, like, and I typically bring my cousin Alicia Baker in because she's such an incredible human design catalyst. And so I bring her in to like do human design stuff. And so it's mostly been for my own good, but it's like, I know enough about all these things to be dangerous is what I always say. It's like, oh, I know enough to be dangerous. Oh, I know enough to be dangerous, but not to be a teacher. And it's never been like something that I wanted to teach. So, but it's just been, it's my private study time. And that's like that's how I fill my cup, is like my private study time and like researching and personal growth and expansion through wisdom and knowledge using frameworks has always been like a big deal to me. So human design, I've been obsessed with, and really like learning as much as I possibly can about myself and about the gates and about the channels and all of that, right? For the last 7 years. And meantime, keeping up my astrology studies and looking at all different types of astrology. And again, like not these deep dives, but periods of obsession where it's all I'm studying, and then connecting the dots in my own personal frameworks. And so Gene Keys has been dropping into my field of awareness for the last couple of years, but I've had a lot of resistance to it. And I'm like, nope, because I know what happens when I get interested in something. I like go down this fucking rabbit hole, and I'm like, I get obsessed, and I'm like, I'm barely managing my human design studies. I don't want to open up this other doorway of Gene Keys. But it keeps coming into my field, keeps coming into my field, keeps coming into my field. So finally, Maria Portis, I see that Maria Portis is offering these pearl sequence sessions, and I love to do anything and everything with Maria. So Maria and I end up trading an offer for an offer, and the sessions just keep getting delayed, and they keep getting delayed, and they keep getting delayed. But in the meantime, I'm like on Amazon, and I'm like, okay, I'm ordering all the human design books or all the Gene Keys books. So I order all the Gene Keys books, and they arrive, and I start reading up on my Gene Keys, and it's like blowing my mind. I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like the transmission of this is so deep, and it starts activating something in me. And I start to kind of see the world differently. Now, also in parallel to this, I'm going through alchemical wealth, which is my journey through the Philosopher's Stone inside my modality that focuses on money, wealth, and abundance. So all of this is happening simultaneously. And at the same time, I'm getting a divorce. And at the same time, I'm reuniting and reconnecting with my first love. And at the same time, I make the decision that I'm going to go through the womb spiral with Zephyria. And I mean, like, just like this whole perfect storm of stuff is happening, right? And I'm feeling really stressed and really overwhelmed, and everything in my life feels like it's like, like how the clock works and the cogs of the clock, like they're perfectly aligned, and that's how the clock works. Like to me, I felt like the everything was just slightly off. And so nothing was like flowing or like running the right way. It just, everything felt really like, don't know what the word is, but hopefully you're like understanding through like the transmission that I'm delivering of like this, like it like a cog in the wheel, like it's like the wheel's turning, but it's like, right? I'm explain it. That's what my life has felt like for the last like 6 months. But at the same time, I'm like so inspired, and I'm like reinvigorated and like back in like full passion with my business. And I'm so excited about the Ouroboros launch, and like Claire and Laura and I are just like meshing and gelling like crazy. And like, we're pumped about Mastering Your Spiritual Money Game and Ouroboros and all of this. And it's like, so there's all this excitement and there's all this amazing stuff happening in my life. And I'm like in such an extreme state of gratitude for like this love that's come into my life, and reconnecting with my first love, and like really like somebody who really understands me and has known me since I was 13, and is kind of like witnessed and seen me all through the evolution of like who I am and who I'm becoming. So I'm thinking all this stuff is unrelated, and now I'm like, oh my God, every single part of this has now come into this apex, which is me downloading my legacy work. And now it's like, I understand why all of these pieces had to happen all through my life, like why these obsessions, why the interest in these things, because it's all come together and meshed in like this perfect synergy of the work that I'm here to bring to the world. And so I had my, so the sessions with Maria finally start. I'm studying Gene Keys. I'm like having my mind blown about this new framework. I discover that one of my Gene Keys is actually helping people understand archetypes and frameworks. Like, so it's like, there's like all these confirmations are coming through. And so I have my, so as part of this Pearl sequence, Maria decides that she wants to redo my, or do my annual life purpose, like update renewal session with me. And I always love doing that. I do that with her every year. It's really, really powerful. If you haven't done a life purpose session with Maria, like it's life changing. And so I do this session with Maria and she's like, your purpose has completely shifted. Like it's, you know, you're now God of divine blueprints. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But it triggers this remembrance in me of working with another healer that I had worked with several years ago, where I had went into this crazy waking state vision in the middle of this session with this healer, where like my multidimensional self came and told me that I was going to be downloading a life extension protocol. And I had nothing to do with 5-element theory at this time. This was prior to that. And I was like, I'm a wealth person. Like, what do I know about life extension protocols? But I was like, all right. And I just wrote it down in my journal and I was like, okay. So then obviously, you know, Michelle Patrick and I meet, we come together. She starts teaching me 5-element theory, another life-changing, incredible framework that like this wouldn't be possible without. And then for the second time in my life, what is happening to me right now happened to me. And that was that over the course of, I would say, you know, 2 days, but 4 days total, I went into this channeling state and downloaded the ERC, emotional resonance clearing, modality clearing process. So it happened once in 2019 when the program of Ouroboros came through, and it was a 2-day thing, like 2-day, I was crazy, notes, all the stuff coming through about this program Ouroboros. I launched that. We're now getting ready to step into round 6 of that, like next level craziness. And then the following year, so that was 2018, the following year in 2019, same thing happens, but this is like the modality, you know, my emotional clearing modality that Michelle and I created together, but I downloaded the process, the process of the modality and how the clearing worked. Then now this is the 3rd time that this has happened to me, but it's so wild because the previous 2 times I couldn't talk about it. Like I felt like I was going crazy. It wasn't like till I was through the like channeling process that I was able to actually articulate what had happened. And then it took me like several months to like anchor it in and then like get it to the place where it was ready to like take to market essentially. This time's been completely different. It's like, as soon as it started coming in, I like started talking to people about it. And then last night it was like enough of it had dropped in that I was like, no, I've got to put it out into the market. Like the world needs to know about it. And I'm calling in, you know, at first I was like, I think I can only take 10. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how many, but 10 for sure in this first phase, like of people to come in and pioneer this work with me, to do these sessions. And I mean, it's wild how crazy, like everyone is messaging me. Everyone is messaging me, like, can I get in? What are you doing? Like, they can feel the energy of it. They can feel the transmission of it. And I'm like, this is the moment. Like, this is the moment of my life. Like, this is my legacy work. This is what I came here to do and deliver. And my real belief at this moment is like, it does have to do with holistic wealth. It has to do with how we acquire and accumulate money. And our relationship to money and wealth. But what I'm recognizing and realizing is that those codes actually have to do with how humanity is going to evolve, like the evolution of humanity and our longevity as a species. So it's all tied together, but it is specifically a framework for how you live wealth. And for me, the last 6 months have been about understanding that wealth is not just financial, it is holistic in nature. And me having to go through my own initiation and my own real difficult period of time in my life as I deconstructed that financial wealth is actually not my highest priority in my life. And for me, there's five tiers of wealth, and financial wealth was always my number one priority. It's now my number 5. So it's now the lowest on my list of 5 wealth priorities. I'm going to be talking more about that in the certainty factor. Also, I'm going to be talking about those wealth priorities because it's important to like identify that, I think, as you step into doing this work. Freaking eye, it's so wild. Yeah, so essentially what this is, this system that's coming through is epigenetic alchemy sequencing. So we are looking at the science of epigenetics and how we alter our genes with elemental balance and behavioral shifts and changes. And that's this like where this 5 element theory thing comes in, and where the emotional clearing is really impactful and really important in the process. And then we have the transmutation, the alchemy piece of this, and the sequencing, because it all has to kind of happen in a certain order in order for us to like for the epigenetic like impact to happen. So we're looking here at the hexagrams, your personal hexagrams. So obviously your natal chart, and then how that your time and place of birth, and how that how the hexagrams then interact with the planets. So your personal astrology, and how that, and in particular when it comes to those planets, like that's really where we're looking at how we do wealth. Like we're looking at holistic wealth in terms of the planets. And so yesterday was like all day, like all the information coming through on what the wealth associations are of the planets, because obviously there are some like Jupiter that we're like, oh yeah, we know like Jupiter's the planet of expansion. It's the planet of good luck. Like it's, you know, how we expand wealth in our life, but every single astrological placement in your chart has a wealth association with it. And so yesterday was like downloading that all day, which was mind-blowing and fascinating. But then we're obviously looking at that your natal chart and how the hexagrams interact with the planets, and what that association means and looks like. So, you know, how we you know, our success codes, our success hacks to wealth, our divine mission work, our you know, how we expand wealth, how we communicate. So it's all really centered around how we create wealth in our life, looking at this through this lens. But then we also look at the houses. So this is one-on-one work. Like it really has to be a deep dive into the person's personal astrology, because we've got to look at the houses that the planets sit in, not just the houses and their planetary associations. We have to look at the houses, or not just the hexagrams and their planetary associations. We have to look at how the houses play a role in that. And then the elemental associations of the houses and the planets and the hexagrams. So, and through that, we then create a clearing. There's a clearing process that happens where we elementally are clearing those gateways. Okay. So it's, I mean, and the thing that's hard, it's actually like, I'm surprised that I'm doing as well explaining this. Is it making sense a little bit to you guys? Because it's like, I can see the map of it in my head, and it's really hard to explain. So like this weekend actually is going to be about me really like making this description of what this is so simple so that people can understand it, because it's so complex. And obviously like in my mind, this map is like wild, but I'm like, how do I express that to you guys in a way that is clear and concise and you can understand it? but it's, and even yesterday, I didn't have like complete awareness of how big this is. But this morning I woke up and it was like beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is my legacy work. Like this is the work that I was sent to this planet to deliver. And yeah, I'm so excited. Like I'm just freaking pumped and so excited. The field of epigenetics is something that, at some level has really, really fascinated me. And I know how crazy impactful we are and can be in the alteration of our DNA through our behaviors, through emotional clearing work, through mindset work. And, so I've also been, I'm sure you guys are aware, I've also been like diving so deeply into the science of manifestation and mindset. That's playing such a huge role in my understanding of how this thing is coming through. So yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I'm like on the precipice of this, like, it's so wild, it's so incredible, it's so crazy. But I also know so deeply that some of you are meant to be taking this journey with me. Like you're meant to come in and do this like first initial set of codes. And it's interesting, there's a word coming through and I haven't quite, like, it hasn't quite landed yet. And I'm like, I've been asking everyone around me, I'm like, what's the name for like codes, patterns, keys, gates, codex, but it's not that, right? Like, so the full name, like, I know that what we're doing here is epigenetic alchemy sequencing. Like that has come through so strongly, but that is like such a mouthful. Like it's not called that. So there's some greater name that hasn't dropped in yet, but I'm still kind of like waiting for it to land. But yeah, it's interesting. Pathways came to me too, Jenna. So I'm going to definitely write that down. Like, and also because one of the things also that's dropping in is, synergies is good too. I'm writing these down. So in 5-element theory, we might not get to the money story today. I might have to do it later. This may just be like about this because I'm like, I don't even know that I can like go into the money story right now. But so something that is really fascinating to me. So this is 5-element theory, right? So this is the basis of emotional resonance clearing. So this is so all of the elements have a relationship, an elemental relationship and connection, right? So fire is the mother of, and they have a creation cycle and they have a destruction cycle. So fire is the mother of earth. Earth is the mother of metal. Metal is the mother of water. Water is the mother of wood. Wood is the mother of fire, right? And then there's a destruction cycle as well. So fire controls metal, metal controls wood, wood controls earth, and earth controls water. So like, if you think of this just simply from a like, what you know of the elements perspective, water can put out fire. Water can destroy fire. Fire can melt metal, right? So that's kind of like that destruction cycle. So about 3 months ago, I started downloading a new process for emotional resonance clearing that was about the pathways. So it's interesting that you say pathway because it is about the pathways. It's the in-between. And in this system, there are a lot of the gene keys or the hexagrams, if you will. It's all, those are all hexagrams, right? Like those are the Chinese hexagrams. The gates in human design and the keys in gene keys are the Chinese hexagrams. So in the hexagrams, there are some that are like fire, there are some that are earth, but there are some that exist in the pathway. They're actually not one or the other. They're the in-between. And so for me, I've been like, oh, how am I going to clear the in-between? There's been this thing dropping in for me of like, how do I clear the in-between? And I've like had some thoughts about like what this was going to be called, like the bardo, the clear was going to be called the bardo, like the in-between, right? So this is a big, big, important part of this system is that not all things are just one element. There's also the relationship and the in-between, the pathway in between. So pathway may be it because pathway's been alive in my field over the last little bit. So yeah, I just, I feel like when when I first learned about Spiral and I put my first Spiral offer out into the world, like it was so crazy. I sold, I think 16 Spiral spots before I ever became an emotional clearing practitioner. And then I also, and then I released my program Tempo, which was like, another journey through the spiral, but it was done in a different way than like anyone else was doing it at the time, or I had done it. And I remember that day that I released that, like I woke up in the morning and I was like, I'd been in one of these in between places where I was like, oh, things were feeling a little clunky. And then I woke up that morning and I was like, oh, it came through. And I'm like, yes, this. And I put it out in the world. And 22 people signed up that day for the spiral with me in that container. And I was like, this is freaking crazy. Like in one day, 22 people were like, yes. And there was this energy behind it. And that went on to be so fucking impactful in the world, because I would say that of those 22 people, I think 14 of them became spiral practitioners. So they came into this container with me, but then they went on to do the work themselves and go out and heal more people. And that's the feeling that I have right now. And that is the feeling that I have about whoever this initial group is, that's like hearing this and feeling the transmission in their body and is like, fuck yes, I have to do this. Whoever you are, like, you're feeling this because you're meant to take this out and create a ripple. Like I already know I'll be training practitioners in this. I can feel it. Like this is a life evolution system that's happening here. And so I already know, I already know that, but I have the same feeling that I had then with Spiral. And it was like, you know, when the Spiral practitioner training happened in the United States and I was sitting in that room, it was the first time the training had happened in the United States. And I think there were 32 practitioners, new practitioners in the room. And as I was looking around, it was like all but 7 had come through my channel. And you know, some of them had gone through the spiral with other people, but all but like, and maybe it wasn't even 7, maybe it was 4 people in the room that were actually in the training portion of it had come through my channel. And it was like, whoa, like that moment of me meeting Dane Thomas in New Orleans and then like being like having this feeling, following the alignment and being like, yes, I want everything that you're doing, becoming a spiral practitioner, moving to Bali so that I could be close to Australia, so that I could do spiral practitioner training and advanced practitioner training, releasing Tempo Spiral, bringing 22 people through that, then bringing, you know, then those 22 people becoming spiral practitioners who going out and like bringing in more spiral practitioners. Like there's just this incredible ripple that happens in the world when we follow our divine alignment, when we follow our like, and no matter how hard it gets, no matter how clunky it is, no matter how sticky it is, no matter how much we want to give up, no matter how much we're like, oh God, is all this worth it? Like, these are the moments. And I can promise you, like each and every one of you, like you have a legacy work. You have a legacy work. And I've known all along that I had a legacy work. I just didn't know what it was, right? I knew that the work that I was doing was hugely impactful in the world. And when ERC came around, I was like, whoa, like this is something fucking special. Michelle and I still all the time are just like this work that we brought through to the world with ERC, the Philosopher's Stone, like emotional resonance clearing is crazy, right? It is so crazy. It's so impactful. I just took 20 people through alchemical wealth journey, blew my mind. You know, that's blowing me wide open. But this is something special. This is something special. So, you know, I would assume that this work is going to be downloading to me over the next year because the map that I'm seeing is so complex. But there is an incredible, very clearly laid out starting point. And as of right now, my belief is that that's going to be 4 one-on-one sessions. I'm going to put everybody that's like a fuck yes right now to this in a group, and I'm going to be delivering the transmissions of the gateways. And then I'm going to be doing one-on-one work with them. So it'll be my own downloading and research based on their natal chart, and then delivering that to them one-on-one with the clearing. So that's what this is looking like right now, and it is obviously going to evolve. It's a whole system, like I'm burping now, like clearing. It's a whole system. So it's definitely going to be this evolution of work, right? It's going to be an evolution of work. And ERC practitioners, like those of you that are ERC practitioners, like you're so in the right place, because especially the water practitioners this round, because obviously this is dropping in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just seeing you guys like all out in the world, like delivering this work to the world, all these ERC practitioners, because ERC is such a big part of this, right? So I don't even know how all of this works together at this point, but I know that God has spoken, and don't get hung up on the name. God, source, universe, all that is. And it's like, this is it. This is the legacy work. This is what I'm meant to be doing. And like, I just want to know from you guys, like, who's on this train with me? The sheer number of messages, my Facebook Messenger right now, like as I've been on this call, is just like one more message, one more message, one more message. Like it's freaking wild. The response that's happening to this thing. So here we go. I'm gonna have to come back and do the money story, because it just doesn't even feel like it's meant to be part of this transmission today. And yeah, I feel like I need to go get back to everybody and get everyone dropped in to this energy and this container. So yeah, if you are called, send me a private message. If you've already sent me a private message, bump your message. I have no, I've responded to some of you. I've responded partially to some of you. So I've just been like trying to navigate and field all the messages. So if you've sent me a message and I've half responded, bump it. If you are, yeah, so just send me a message and we'll go from there. Yeah, so, and more to come. And the Ouroboros bundle is officially open for business, which I'm super excited about. So, yeah, just, you know, the gift of getting to do and deliver this type of work in the world, this transformative work is, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. Yeah, to be able to experience people's growth and transformation in this way is such a gift. But to be trusted to be the custodian of this type of work is, you know, it's really humbling and awe-inspiring. So, and you know that I don't say that I feel humbled very often, because I have strong feelings about humility, but this is definitely a moment where I can say that I am feeling, my eye agrees, humbled by this experience. So I love you guys, and we'll reschedule part 2 of the money story. Maybe tonight if I'm feeling it, maybe tomorrow. But we're riding the train. We're calling this EAS for right now until the actual name of it drops in. So we're riding the EAS train right now, epigenetic alchemy sequencing. If you're on it, send me a private message. All right, love you guys.